know, I'm Safety Jim, as most of you knew me. I spent a year on the cast line, and it was determined I wasn't a very good cast line operator. So I moved into capital construction, and I was there for 8 years. And then a safety job came open, and I applied for it, never dreaming I'd get it or thinking I'd have a chance. And I got the job. And it turned into be a really great 20 years of my career. And we did a lot of good stuff at Presto in safety and keeping people safe and improving safety. And then the last 4 years I was in maintenance, and I left in 2003. So that was my 33 years of Presto. And then, of course, did anyone see the room yet with Presto stuff? Because that's right next door. I started collecting Presto stuff. And I mean, I collected Presto stuff. I had a lot of stuff. And then Presto started 5S'ing and changing and getting purchased. And I became the quasi-historian, so I got a lot of stuff that way. So, and now I got more stuff tonight. People brought stuff, so. Okay, is Jennifer here from, okay. I just want to know if you're here. I haven't met you yet, but okay, we'll get to you. All right, so we're gonna get going. The company was founded in 1961 by 3 men. And it was started in a garage making household film, or what people would call plastic wrap. And the company was basically founded on a family tradition, and all of the managers treated people with dignity and with care. And if you made a mistake, you didn't get thrown out the door. And it was just a wonderful place to work, and both for the people and the families. So this is basically the founders, Clarence Wallace, Jack Lynch, and Frank Heckrott. And they pooled their money together, and they had a dream. Actually, I think Jack had the dream and got these guys to dream with him. And the dream was to make napkin dispensers and napkins. Now, who knew that before tonight? Raise your hand. 2 people and these guys. Yeah, you don't count. Okay, so now, the reason that is this is 1961, and drive-ins are sprouting up all over, and they were going to capitalize on that. And this is what they actually came up with. There is a real one in the other room on display with the napkins. And their hope was to do that. Well, how did they get their name? Presto got their name now this is according to Lure, I can't swear to this, that Mrs. Wallace pulled a napkin out of the container and said, "Presto, it's magic." And that's where the name came from. Now, I asked Clarence about that, and he said it was close enough, so I'm going with it. I wasn't going to dig any deeper than that. And this is an original piece of artwork of the original logo, which is kind of a flag. And then the Presto, now this is really interesting. I can't believe you're here. The history of the Presto, now this is a magician's assistant. It is not a fairy. This is a magician's assistant to go along with the Presto, it's magic, okay? Everyone called it the Presto Fairy, and that's okay. Well, how that came to be is they decided they needed an assistant, and they needed a model, and if you can believe it, the model is sitting in front of me tonight. It was Betty Olson, and this wasn't planned. This was just a treat. Okay, so you can see again, there's a hat and a wand, and it all had to do with the magician. This is a copper magician's assistant that hung in the office for decades, and when things changed, she had to change because she was considered too risque. Now she'd be overly dressed, but that's a whole other story. So, okay. Now, this is the model on the left who modeled for the Presto magician's assistant. And this was her, you can't see this very well, but there's the magician's assistant on her going away card from Presto. So it was really, really cool. I can't believe you're here tonight. This is amazing. All right. So now this is actual artwork that I got from Presto. Some of it's handwritten. Probably Tony Zeller made this stuff, I don't know. But this is some of the very first artwork that they used for their product. Again, this number may float a little bit, but I was told that they invested $12,000 to start the company to make napkins and dispensers. And right after they got going, they were notified they were not going to get the patent for the dispenser, and they were out of business. They couldn't do it. So that was really a bad day. So now they're sitting around a table trying to determine their next move on a Sunday night, and Mrs. Lynch was wrapping sandwiches. And one of the kids came in and said, "Mom, wrap the sandwich in that bag from the dry cleaner." And Jack said, "Well, why are you doing that?" And she said, "Well, I cut all the printing off and I use the plastic and it keeps the sandwich better than wax paper." And he looked at the other guys and must have had an epiphany and said, "We can do that." So the company went from napkins to household wrap like overnight. They started out in this little garage in Menasha, which by the way is still there. And he headed out and got some plastic and started getting it converted, and pretty soon it took off. Then they started moving along, and they moved to the brewery, which is called Between the Locks down in the Flats. That's still there. And you can tell they didn't have a lot of money. They were just getting by and moving along. Well, then some more magic happened. Frank Heckrott was selling the product, and he went to Sears, and Sears loved the product and wanted it in their stores, and that just propelled Presto into the stratosphere, so to speak. And I can't say that this is the original package, but it's very close to the original package. And Presto did oftentimes not sell under the Presto name, but under the company name, like Kmart or Shopko or something. So, but that's about the circa. So that's how they got going.
Do you want me to tell a little story that's
Sure.
cute?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll come up and tell it. This is funny. I worked for Clarence Wallace. I was his girl Friday, okay? And then Presto was getting a little bit bigger. That picture you saw before, in order to go to Presto, you had to walk up some rickety steps, some more, and then there were all kinds of Adler cases of beer sitting around. And then you went way to the back. I wish I would have taken a couple of those now, because it'd probably be worth a lot of money. But anyway, they were all empty cases. And then all the way at the back, there was one long room, and that was Presto. And there was one office girl, Doris Jacoby, and then Clarence brought me in. And then the room at the back was Frank and Jack and Clarence, all in that one room. So anyway, I came in and they had an old pegboard system where you put things on it, you turn it pegged order. Everything was done by hand. And I would record all of the invoices for the week, and then I would record all of the income for the week. That was it. And then later they asked me to come in and do the payroll. So I also did the payroll all in one day. That was it. So then I was home. I just worked one day a week there. And then Frank Heckrott called me. And he said, "Betty, can you come in and work one more day?" And I said, "Well, what would I do?" I said, I always had extra time left over, the way it is. He said, "Well, Jack is trying to sell Safeway. And if we can get Safeway," at that time it was the biggest chain store in the world. But anyway, he said, "If we can get Safeway, we got it made. Because we can tell our salespeople, well, we make Safeway plastic, and just like that." And they're going to say, "Oh my." So anyway, he said, "I've already talked to my wife, Lois, and she's going to keep calling here, like every hour on the hour, so the phones are really busy." And he said, you can take all kinds of stuff out of the files and put it on a pile and sort it all out, and then refile it again. He said, "Just look really busy." So I said, okay. Doris Jacoby and me were the only two people in the office. I did have to share my desk that I had with Howie Lynch, who was one of the salespeople. But he wasn't going to be there that day, so I had the desk all to myself. But anyway, I did that, did exactly what Frank asked me to do. So the guy from Safeway came in and we were real busy. Jack sold Safeway. I really don't think I had that much to do with it. But for years after that, Frank would always say to me, "Oh, Betty, I'm so glad that you came in. We never would have got Safeway." Years afterwards, years, he would keep saying that to me. So anyway, I thought that was a funny story, and it fit in right about now.
Okay, now with the product coming in and the sales going out, they really started to grow. And in 1966, Presto got into the building on 1843 West Reeve Street, which they were there for the next 10 years in manufacturing and probably several more years in a part-time basis. And that's this building where a lot of us probably started. And the old security van. Now this is something I really want you to try to appreciate. I've seen it over and over and I can't believe it. In a 10-year period, Presto built 4 new facilities. And when you see them, I mean facilities, not garages. The Waiawega facility, the Presto Perkins Street facility, the Lewiston, Utah, and South Boston. Plus they developed and got Polyform going. Now to give you an appreciation for this, look at the dates on this. This was Waiawega in 70. That's a big complex. And right, I don't know, 20 years into it, we had a very serious fire there. Train derailment and shut the plant down. Larry, do you know how long was it, for 3 weeks or 4 weeks?
2.5 weeks.
Yeah, and that's a whole nother story, but in a nutshell, Larry needed employees to work, and they couldn't work at that plant because it was quarantined. And he asked for volunteers to go to Lewiston or South Boston.
Both.
And he'd hoped he'd get a handful of people to come. He chartered a plane, and when it came time, 2 planes were needed to send people. Can you imagine that happening in this day and age? Having people packing up and going to a different state to help the company? That's the kind of capital this guy had. Luckily, in this tragic fire, nobody was hurt. Okay, and then we have the Winnebago warehouse and the store, the Presto store. And the original sign from the store is hanging in that room. Then we built in 72 Lewiston. And again, that's a big plant. It's just not like a little garage. Then in 73, they got Polyforms going. 77, they built South Boston. Oh, Grand Chute, I'm sorry. Yeah, the corporate headquarters. And I think that was there in 75, but it was mostly a warehouse, and then it grew. Yeah, Perkins Street, yeah. Okay, and that is a huge complex. And then, not to be outdone, in 80, so this is like in 10 years, they built another massive plant. And it's mind-boggling if you look at how they grew. And Presto also has a plant in Carrollton now that I don't know really anything about because it was after I left. And then, okay, and then they have a plant in Waupaca. So I've seen that, but I haven't been in it. So that's a lot of growth. They also, in 83, purchased Winkler Flexible Products, which made knives, forks, spoons, and straws. And this is the kind of stuff they made. And it just turned out that the company wasn't a good fit for us, and they got sold. I think in 87 they got sold. And then the Polyform in 73 had a fire. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but 2 kids, I think like 12 years old, were playing in the warehouse, outside, thank God, it was a separate building, and they would start a fire to stay warm and then put it out and go home, but the fire didn't go out, and they went home and it burned the building down. And luckily they did come forth and admitted doing it, and it was a bad day. Okay, also at Polyform, we started a recycling program. This was called the Poly Trolley, and that would go around to schools picking up milk bottles. And I believe we paid a penny a piece for them. And it was not to make money, it was more to spread the word on recycling, and it was to get us a product, to make a product. So these kinds of items were made out of recycled material. I don't know, how long did we do that, a couple of years? More? Okay, 15, okay, 15 years, all right. But, and the other thing, when I started in 1970 on the cast line, they were already recycling the trim on the machine right back into it. So it was no waste. I mean, Presto was doing recycling before even anyone knew how to spell it. They were always doing it. So that was really another part of the success. And speaking of Polyform, they developed with the Corps of Engineers this Geo Web, which it was used all over the country and really all over the world. And it's an amazing product. Oh, here, actually. I meant to show you this. Will you open it and then pass it around? And then you can pass this one around too. These are some of the places that we used. It was used, in different parts of the country, different parts of the world for the war. Made bunkers out of it. They made roads out of it. It was really a great product, still is. And a really, really proud thing is that it's at the White House. That lawn is all geoblock. Where'd that go? The geoblock. Well, just hold that up a second. That's all in that lawn. So if there's ever an emergency, they can drive on that lawn and not wreck it, like with big trucks and things to make a barricade. And then this is how it looks. They put this in the ground and grow grass, and eventually you don't even know it's there. And then also the grounds at the Capitol have the same thing to protect that in case they have to put barriers around it. So Presto, I think, really, really made a heck of a name for themselves. For being a small company in Appleton, they really did a lot. For people that don't know, this is how plastic is made. Polyethylene pellets are fed into a hopper in an extruder at about 400 degrees, and I'm sure some are 500 degrees. It gets melted, and then if you look in here, it goes in here, gets melted, and it goes through the screw, and then it comes out through the die, and it forms whatever shape the die is. And in our case, it was tubes or bubbles. And then it goes into a bag machine, and it goes into a package, and then it gets shipped. So on the left is polyethylene. On the bottom is dye. This is also polyethylene. And then this is showing a bubble getting started and going up, which would go about 20 feet in the air to cool off.
Where's the Zergles?
It's what?
The Zergles.
The Zergle man?
Oh, those are Zergles?
No.
Oh, I thought they were dye.
That's dye. There's no,
Oh.
Zergles are bigger.
I don't have any.
Okay.
Are they still making them?
No, they don't make Zergles. They recycle it.
Yeah, I know there's Zergle man. I thought they were saying that dye was Zergles. Okay, and then again, there is a Gulf head in a case in that room made out of crystal, and it was awarded to Larry for the amount of resin that we bought, and it's 100 million pounds. It's some number I can't even fathom that Presto bought. Now, they got it in boxes, they got it in train cars, and if it was in the train car, it got pumped into the silo and then back into the plant. And in the early 80s, resin was very volatile. And if it went up a penny, it could mean thousands of dollars in losses for Presto. Or hundreds of thousands. Well, I meant at a time, not for the whole year. And if it went down, we made a little money for a little while until the customer said, hey, it went down, you got to give us some money back. It's kind of, but anyway, it was nothing to see 20 cars out on the track because John Beret would barter and get it at a price that was good enough that we could still afford to have it and make money with it. Again, this is what a bubble and dye looks like. The silver part is the dye, which has heater bands on it, and then the blue part is the air ring, which is cooling the bubble, and then the bubble is the bubble. And then this is a heater panel, which controls all the heat zones. This is actually a picture from Presto, and it's showing an extruder, the dye, and air ring assembly. It goes up about 20 feet, and it comes back down into the bag machine. Now, who got to do this in here? You haven't lived till you pulled poly for 20 or 30 minutes trying to get the machine running while your arms were falling off. And then Pat, he's grabbing all the plastic and making it sealed up, and then there was air that blew on the inside and it blew the bubble up. And they would tie it up, and it would go up, and it would fall down, and it would go up, and it would fall down. They got really good at it, but sometimes it broke a lot, and it could be really frustrating. So then, this is what a nip tower looks like, and what that's doing is collapsing the tube and making it flat, taking the air out of it, and then sending it back down to the bag machine. So up there it gets collapsed, and here it's going in the bag machine, and it becomes a bag. All right? And again, you haven't lived till you did this. You took a box, and you went like this and opened it, and then you opened the flaps, you took the roll out, you put it in, you closed the flaps, you put it in a gluer, you took it out, you put it in a case, you took it out, and you put it on skid. Now, many of those operations are all automated. I believe when I started at Presto, trash bags were being made at 30 bags a minute. When I left, they were being made at 120 bags a minute. So that's a huge difference. And then, they went from there to the case and then packed on a pallet and then got ready to go to the warehouse for shipping. I'm not going to read all these. You can look at them, but these are just some of the products that Presto made. And I'm sure there's a few I missed. I just did this off the top of my head. But a lot of the things Presto did, they were always aiming at the housewife and housewares, things that fit in the home, like the knives and forks or napkins, any number of bags, a lot of that stuff. Baby bottle liners, so wipes, moist towel, kitty litter, carpet cleaner.
Shake and bake bags.
Yeah, turkey bags. Okay, now these are some of the labels that Presto did. And I was told at one time we had over 2,000 labels. Now that doesn't mean 2,000 customers, because one customer could have many labels for all the different products. But you can see.
World's largest private label company.
Okay, I was just told they're the world's largest private label company, and that's saying something. Does everyone know what private label means?
No.
Yeah.
Huh? Okay. If you don't, what it is Coca-Cola is a national brand. Jolly Good is a private label. Like you could buy Jolly Good, and it might be Jim's Cola or Tom's Cola, but it's not Coca-Cola, okay? That's what all this was. Presto made all the bags for these people and put their names on them. In some cases, Presto's name was on them. And these are many of the products we made. Wet wipes and carpet, and then a host of bags. Presto's promise, quality plus value. We were always a top performing company. We got in trouble actually years ago. Does anyone remember, what was the name of that stuff? Generic products? Okay. Well, a lot of companies wanted generic because it was cheaper, but they wanted it to perform like the top name brand. And Larry and company were always balancing that because they couldn't make it too good, or they couldn't make any money, and they couldn't make it too bad, or they couldn't sell it. So generics eventually went away. I think they just didn't work. But Presto was always top-notch in quality. And again, these are some of the products we sold. Stretch Guard was a very big thing for us. Still is a good product. It's for stretch wrapping skids. They can stretch wrap bales of hay and things. Lots of uses for that. What? Bale wrap, yep. Safety program. Again, I'm not going to read all these off, but we had an extensive safety program. And actually, this isn't a good story, but it's a true story. When I was on the cast line, the film would be over my head. I'd be on my knees, and the film would be going over my head, and you had to take a knife and cut the film and hit it at the same time, okay? Instantaneously, or the whole machine wrapped up. Well, unfortunately, I was new and I got excited, and I put the hand up and then I cut it, okay? That didn't work. The plastic didn't cut, my fingers did. All right, so when that happened, I had more than a couple people come up to me, and does anyone know what they said? Can you remember? Do you, the veterans? Congratulations, now you're a Presto employee. I mean, because safety was not a big thing then. I wouldn't say it wasn't important, but it wasn't a big thing. And over time, we built up a really great safety program. And a lot of it goes to management, Larry and company supporting it 100%. This was a really proud day for me and for Presto. We were owned by Reynolds Metals at the time, and they were doing auditing that took a week to do. 5 people would come and audit the plant, and I mean, they knew the size of my underpants when I left. I mean, it was terrible. And we won the highest award ever given at Reynolds Metals, the best safety program. And it was really a big deal. In fact, it was so good, they didn't know if they were going to give it to us because they couldn't believe we achieved it. But then they did give it to us. They said they checked it all out, and it checked out. Oh.
Who's that man on the picture?
The guy in the white shirt with a smile? Oh, Larry, that's Larry. But anyway, it was, and the other thing that happened because of that, Reynolds stopped coming to see us. We were so advanced, they didn't bother with us. They knew we were doing a good job. So that was another big straw in our hat. This was a bad day at Presto. We had a substation in Presto that was 20,000 volts. And our electricians were not equipped to test it, so we brought in an outside contractor. And unfortunately, he touched his head on it's called the knife or the blades that hook in. It literally blew him across the room. He took 20,000 volts to the head, it went down the side of his body and out his foot, and he lived. It was a miracle.
I helped him out.
Huh?
I helped him out.
Yeah,
I did too.
it was bad.
Watches, rings,
Yeah.
everything was a tattoo.
Yeah. Oh yeah, and his shoe had a hole this big in it where the electricity left.
Jack Cruz said he's never seen a human being take that kind of power
Yeah.
anywhere.
But luckily it went through him, not across him. It somehow went out. Well, anyway, he had wire rim glasses on, they melted off his face. There was just pieces laying around of his glasses. So this is happening, okay? I'm at the state getting an award for a good safety program. And we got a call, I was with Dave Peppercorn, and we got a call, and unfortunately they said someone was electrocuted. Now when I heard that, what does that mean to you? Dead. He wasn't dead, but you can be electrocuted and not killed, and I didn't know that. So I told Dave, I said, I don't want this award, I want to go home. I was just sick to my stomach. And he said, no, we've earned this, you're going to get it. I was supposed to make a presentation, and I got through it, and luckily we got home and the guy was still alive. And wow, that's as close as we came to a fatality. And the thing that hurts is we hired a guy to do it because we couldn't do it, and he didn't do it right. This is something that was developed before I got to Presto, or before I got my job. And you can see every department was scored every month on how they did for injuries and lost time injuries or accidents or no accidents. And then we also had 2 newsletters, which was the Presto Today, and that had news about people having a baby, an anniversary, winning a baseball game, maybe their kid won a football title. And then the other thing we had is a monthly letter for safety news. And this happens to be the first one. I saved that when I made it back in 1981. And that had information about accidents, prevention, training, and that was really a good tool for people. Benefits. I want you to read these. These are the ones that I could remember from being there. Health insurance, sick leave, 401k, stock purchase, profit sharing, full-time company nurse, internal job posting and promotions, female advancement. We had numerous female managers at Presto when I started there in '70. I mean, Presto was always ahead of the curve on these things. Annual service awards and retirement banquet, paid vacations, and I guess it was up to 6 weeks. I said 5, but someone told me it was 6. Paid education program and company store with products being purchased at cost. Not bad. I don't know where people work now, but you're not seeing that stuff anymore. And and we had a stock purchase program. And when Presto got sold, you got Coke stock, which was a good thing for everyone. And Larry told me a story. This is an original Presto stock certificate, or a copy of it, for Gary Miller. And this was a Coke stock for myself. Now here's some of the things. I want to tell you a story about the stock though. Larry told me this, I think, or maybe Chuck Roma did. When Presto was rumored to be being sold, there's another company called Presto in Eau Claire. And people started buying their stock, thinking they were going to get in with Coca-Cola and it, oh geez. So, and we'll talk about that a little more in a second. These are some of the things we had: an annual bowling jamboree, Christmas party, company picnic, and that was for the family. safety and health fairs, company-sponsored sports, all kinds of sports, and a photo contest, fishing contest. I mean, they were all stuff to keep people happy and to know they were appreciated, and Presto just did such a wonderful job with these things. Okay, here's quickly, there's an open house on the left. The bottom one is the safety fair. We'd have Grand Chute come. We'd have the Theta Star helicopter there, an ambulance. This is again the health fair, and then this is the company picnic. They'd bring these rides in for the kids. It was a really great thing. Again, that's the safety fair. That was to show you what it's like not to wear a seatbelt or to wear a seatbelt. The bottom one is Larry's retirement party. This is really a good picture of Presto because it's people drinking, and that there's a common thread there. And then this was one of the anniversaries. Huh? This was one of the anniversary pictures, and this was done every year. You got a colored photograph in a frame. Not every year, it was at your anniversary. So it was probably at your 5 and 10 and 20. That's another party. Oh, well, that's the safety luncheon. This is a golf outing. And then we had a car show that Presto sponsored, bought everyone a dash plaque, and these are some of the employees' cars. We had enough cars to have a car show. That was pretty cool. We had a photo contest and other contests for fishing, safety, drawing contests for the kids, limericks, talent contest, word finds, safety poker. That was a good game. Who played safety poker? Does anyone remember that? That was a good game. I'll explain it in a second. Now, this is kind of fun. Jim Krieger is sitting over there, and I'm Jim Krieger over here. We played together as kids. We went to high school together, and we worked at Presto together. And I like to think, he was in the warehouse and I was in safety, and I said, it takes three of a kind to beat this pair. So, and you can see I'm working and he's playing baseball. Now, does anyone know who this is? Does anyone remember this? Otis Sistrunk? This was on Monday Night Football. He shaved his head and was sitting on the sideline, and you can see the steam pouring off his head. Don Meredith said, oh, there's Otis Sistrunk from the University of Mars. And everyone laughed, and we thought it was funny. So we come to work the next morning on a Tuesday morning, and everyone says, God, I wouldn't shave my head for anything. Why would he do that? Dan Talbot said, I'd shave my head for $100. Well, about 30 seconds later, it was $100 laying in front of him. And we were off to the races. So what happened was, well, I'll explain this rather than reading it. What happened was, we were all set. He's got a place at the barbershop at Valley Fair. They gave him the bib, they gave him the free haircut, and it was a razor shave with foam. I'm leaving Presto, and there's a payphone right here when I'm going out the door. And my nasty mind lit up, and I called Channel 2 and said, hey, we're getting a guy's head shaved on a bet. Do you want to come and film it? And Lee said, yeah, where are you going to be? And I told her, she said, Al Sampson's out on Lake Winnebago. We'll get him in to film it. Oh, God. Al comes in half tanked up. And he, oh, where's this guy getting his hair cut? You know, and so he films it, and that was okay. Films the whole thing. Right at the end, Dan's wife comes in, and they said, hey, there's Dan's wife. Alex says, what do you think of your wife or your husband shaving head? She says, these people at Presto are crazy. And I thought, uh-oh. It was only on at 6 and 10, so you had two chances to see it. Well, what happened after that was Wednesday morning. I came into work, and everyone was buzzing about Dan getting his hair shaved, and I got a call from the office. Jim Krieger come to the office. And I went in, and Frank and Jack and maybe Bill, I don't know if you were there, Larry, or not, but all the guys were there. And Frank says, Jim, we don't ever want to hear Presto's name used in a negative way again. Do you understand that? I said, yeah, and I'm ready to faint. I mean, I'm ready to tip over. He said, you go back to work now. And I swear to God, to this day, I got out that door and those guys were laughing like hyenas. I wanted to go back in, but I was too afraid. But I got the message. We never did that again. This is just to show you a little bit how Presto was. This is Pete and Clarence and Carl. And Presto got big into cleaning, and they had these backpacks, and they were kind of like a Ghostbusters. And we had a lot of fun working. Now, Presto. This is Presto non-Presto. Now, I'll ask you, Betty, did you ever get a phone call about Presto appliances? Yeah. We all did. We all did. So,
Broken things.
right, my hot dog maker's broke. And I said, oh, man, we make plastic bags. So I finally took a picture of the place, and what this is, it's a tribute to that craziness, and there is a display in the other room showing the stuff that they had. And a lot of people got that phone call. So that's what that's about.
Jim,
Yeah.
some of that was returned to Presto.
Oh, it was? Okay.
Every once in a while, we
Yeah.
get something in.
So the other thing that happened commonly is someone would say, where do you work? I said, at Presto Products. Oh, you make those hot dog cookers. Oh. So that's what this is all about. Okay, now, I call it the end of an era. This is Larry Wirth's retirement party. And simply put, the day he walked out the door, the place is never the same. Never. For a lot of reasons, but mostly for his love and care of the employees. Absolutely. I'm going to flash through these. I don't want you to look at this too much because it's on display in a bigger thing in the room next door. And you can look at it and see what people said. But I do want to read this. Well, I got to sit down for a second. Some of us were given the chance to write a note on that picture for Larry. And I wrote, Dear Larry, I owe you so much for all you've done for me and our Presto family. There is no way we can ever thank you properly. The two most important things you did for me were, you were like a father to me, and you believed in me. You made Presto a better place and a better place to work. All of us will be forever in your debt. God's love with you and your family. Love, Jim Krieger. And I meant every word of it, and I still do.
That's awesome.
This is his party. Larry, I called him a gentleman farmer because he did farm, but he also was a businessman. So if you're wondering, he got a bag of potatoes, he got a little toy tractor, some bibs, and then I had this made from a collection of stuff that's important to Larry and me and Presto, and that's in the other room hanging, and you can look at that. He was there from 77 to 2000, and he led us to new heights through innovation, outstanding leadership, and incredible people skills. The employees respected and loved him for his ability to relate to them on a personal business. Everyone that talks about Larry now or in the past said, he'd always ask how my son was. He'd know how my wife was. He was always caring about my family. We were his family. He treated us that way, and it was really special. Now this guy, he's sitting here too. Look, he's playing cards. He's playing poker. That was a safety game that we played, and we'd have a manager come and cut the cards and deal the cards. And what happened is, if you went the week without an accident, your department got a card. And whoever had the best poker card at the end of the month won the game. So again, I was talking about drinking. This is our boss showing us by example how to behave. Actually, that was Frank's retirement party. This was Carl's retirement picture, and this is Carl in his office. And here I wrote, this is God. What year did you retire? A long time ago. Carl was a real character, jested Jim Krieger. He reminisced about his years working for Carl in capital construction, and for a while Carl had the nickname Smoothie because he had a knack of handling trouble and people. He took personal interest in those who worked for him and was like a father figure to many. And I wrote up here that he turned raw high school kids into real craftsmen, and it was really something. He did a great job for us and for the company. He did a lot of other stuff too, but I wanted to share what he did for me. Paula Hoyp isn't here. Her mother's sick, and she's with her. But this program wouldn't have happened tonight if it wasn't for Paula. She taught me all of this stuff when I was at Presto. And when I'd come back for the third time and say, how do you make that picture go sideways? She'd show me. She never gave me a hard time. And I owe her a lot. She was really special. Presto today is now owned by Rank Industries. It's a division of Reynolds Consumer Products. They continue to be a leader in private label plastic packaging. Their sales exceed $500 million a year, and I think Presto is truly an American success story. This is, again, you don't have to read this, it's on the floor in the other room. It's a timeline of Presto starting, selling stock, selling the company again, you know, those kinds of things, up until the Rank Industries. These are our first two presidents. Obviously, Jack Lynch founded it, and Larry. Now, I got this picture reminded me of something when I saw it. Larry always came to our production meeting. I shouldn't say always. Occasionally came to our production meeting to explain numbers and how we're doing. One of my favorite things is one time we said, how are we doing? He said, oh, we're in the ditch. He said, we're really in the ditch this month. We got to tighten our belt. We got to do this. So he's going through all these numbers, and he was doing this for our department. And I said, Larry, he had this chart of all the cost of Presto. And I said, Larry, where does personnel fit into that? And he said, oh, you're under burden. And I thought, oh, God, I never forgot it. And we were. He wasn't being facetious. Well, maybe a little. But I thought, oh, yeah, now I know where I guess we were considered a necessary evil. They had to have us, but, you know. So, but anyway. I also want us to take a moment to think of all of our angels that aren't here anymore. And you're going to see some in a second. All of the fine people we worked with, and the numbers are growing rapidly. I'm going to kind of zip through these. That's Jim and Kay, Stan and Ellen, Doris, Gary, Dave, Jim, Bob, Bonnie, Woody, Sue, Berwin. This is a classic. That had to be a setup. She didn't have a lab, did she? And then Luann and Helen and Chris. These I'm not going to name because you can read them. These are great pictures. Larry Garrity, look at him. What is he, like 14 on there? Jerry Treelevin, he must be like 21. Diane Donnemeyer on the left. She retired about 5 years ago with 50 years in. And there's a couple people that got 50 or so, but that was amazing. She did the same thing for 50 years. It's incredible. I think that's Kathy Frank. This is the baseball team, or softball team. I just got all of the names today, and I didn't have time to put them on here. Luann and Joanne Collins were the coaches, and Marge Colby Mims. Carol Neunenkamp, Stein, Schroeder, Sue, Kathy, Lola. Is that one on the end, Mary Pellegrini? I can't tell.
Yes.
Okay, and then Marge. I'm not sure. The next one, Esther Murphy. I think that's Deb Cummings, and this is Vera Miller.
Oh, wow.
So that is priceless. Now, the other thing is, I remember when this league started at Presto, I would go to the games to support them, and the score would be 22-23, and the runs were scored on 75 errors. And this team came together and won the championship, and I mean, you would not want to play that team. It took a few years, but they got it going, and they were fantastic. Now, you see people in wheelchairs? That was a safety meeting called Built to Last a Lifetime, and everyone was in a wheelchair for the whole meeting to see what it was like not to have your legs. This is poker again, and that's a safety meeting, I think, yeah. Now, here's a gang. The left is capital construction, golf outing, Frank's retirement, cast line, maintenance, or project? Project? That's a safety meeting with Jerry Treelevin, and the beauty of that is there's ashtrays on the table yet, so that's how long ago that was. And this is Stan and Mary and Diane. This is another nice picture. This is a maintenance group. Kim Hannigan put this together, that one. And then this is just a lot of faces. Now, this is another thing. This is the summer students that I had pictures of. There was more, certainly. But while we were on capital construction, we had summer students that were namely relatives of people that work there, kids, sons or grandsons or whatever. And up on top, the three on top weren't employees, but they hung around with all the employees, and those guys were going out to Portland. Now, fittingly, you see that window? That's the corner bar on Mason Street on a Saturday morning. Yeah. On the left is Brian Lynch. Next to him is Jeff Beret, and the one on the bottom is Joshua Krieger. This is Mark Rothy, Jeff and Josh, Mike Huff, Mark, and Brian Lemensky, Pete's son. This guy you see on TV all the time, he has that coin shop and jewelry shop in Green Bay. So, and ironically, he went to school for a business degree. Again, just more pictures of, I think this is Larry's retirement. That one's not. Pepsi cups. What's that? What are those doing there? This is Presto Picnics. Look at Larry pulling an old rope here. Dave Peppercorn. Roger the Dodger. Betty. All right. That's Kathy Peppercorn. Pintarelli. Dave Durkin. Bob Roloff. Dave Peppercorn. These two guys too, Larry might lament, but those two guys were really some of the starters at Presto that worked like dogs to help that company grow. They worked all the time. They did everything that was needed to be done. And I think Terry got 52 or 53 years then, if I'm not mistaken. Larry and John Beret. I always thought he looked like a used car salesman. There's a good picture of Jim. And these again are award banquets. And this is an award banquet. More safety poker. Clayton Weber, is his daughter here? No? She was supposed to be here tonight. Woody. This is Kurt Heckrott and Dan DeValk. That was Helen's son. And that is me being a mad professor at a safety meeting on the left. Harold Collar, Bonnie, and Mike. Steve, Jim, help me. Phil, and Joe Mako, and I think that's Dan Fisher. Okay, these are our nurses. Kay Stalker and Ruth, and I cannot think of her name. Does anyone know her name? She was a Waiwiga nurse. I think her first name was Sue, but I'll be dogged if I can think of what it was. I want to thank Jennifer for bringing in the Presto stuff that allowed me to have information about the White House and the Capitol in some of the samples. I want to thank Jordan DeBrawl, who's my nephew who still works there. He got the product for us. And I want to most of all thank my wife who put up with me working on this for several weeks. And I want to thank all of you for coming, and I wish everyone could have been in the room and seen it better, but I wasn't expecting this many people. So, and I want to say I enjoyed working with all of you so much, and I don't miss working, but as I said, I miss the people at Presto. Thank you.
Our vision. We will be the customer's first choice for quality, value, and service. Our mission, quality. We will supply products and services to our customers according to the agreed upon time, price, and specifications. Productivity. We will work in a team environment. We will sharpen our skills and talents to continuously improve and innovate. We will welcome change and be willing to take risks to achieve our goals. Environment. We will work to achieve safe, clean, team-centered, non-union work environment where trust and respect guide our actions. Ethics. We will be good citizens conducting all business and interactions in an ethical manner with the highest integrity. Business. We believe by adhering to the principles above, we will meet our goals for growth and profitability. Our values. Exceed customer expectations, continuous improvement, supplier involvement, employee empowerment, stakeholder satisfaction, social responsibility. We are committed to our own success and that of our customers, investors, suppliers, and the communities in which we operate. Presto.
Thank you. Larry Wirth with that. Well, I'm sitting here with Larry Wirth. He was the president of Presto Products from 1970 until 2000. And we did a display tonight on Presto history, and Larry was gracious enough to come. And I'm going to chat with him for a second. And number one, Larry, thank you so much for coming. And thank you so much for all you did for Presto. I think you could see by the turnout tonight, there's a lot of love in that group, and they care a lot. So
I agree. I think the company is still doing well. I don't know that because I've stayed away purposely, because every time I go there, I interrupt.
Cause a stir.
I cause a stir,
Yeah.
and everyone wants to talk. But and now I have. It's time for me to say goodbye, because I'm already be 90 years old, and most of the people who were there when I retired are also retired now. I retired in the year 2000,
Yep.
and it's been most of the people have been retiring
Yeah.
since that time.
But it was a wonderful company built on family principles, good work ethics, good play ethics, and I always called it the Presto American success story and the love story, because of the affection management showed the employees and the affection the employees showed management. So I was lucky enough to work there for 33 years. And we were lucky enough to have this guy as our president for 30 years.
Yes, I was there for some of the fantastic growth. Went through a sale and repurchase of the company, sale to Coca-Cola, and bought it back in 1985. We ran it as a private company again for a couple of years, and then sold it to Reynolds Metals Company, and they ended up being purchased by Alcoa, who ended up selling Presto to another buyer. But we had a great growth period. I don't know how large Presto is now, but I started when the sales were about $10 million, and that was in 1970. And when I retired in the year 2000, our sales were $325 million. So we had fantastic growth over the years, and I guess that tells a story of how fast and how much the company grew. So.
Just to follow up, in recent conversations with Presto, they're now a $500 million a year in sales company. So when I left, they were $250 million.
Yeah.
So it's a great company. So, okay, well, thank you, everyone. And again, I'm grateful for having my time there, and I'm really grateful for Larry coming tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.